The next one is A Woman, a Gun, and a Noodle Shop. Now, just when you're thinking A Woman, a Gun, and a Noodle Shop, who cares? And a baby. It turns out that this film is a remake of a beloved Coen Brothers movie. Wade, tell us about it.
This is the latest film from Chinese director Zhang Yimou. It is a remake of the Coen Brothers' Blood Simple, which was their first film. What's really odd about this is that Zhang Yimou, who is one of the famous Chinese fifth-generation filmmakers, he started his career around the same time. He was a cinematographer on some very, very famous Chinese films in the early 80s, then made his directing debut a couple of years later, around about 1985-86, with Red Sorghum. 1984, just a year and a half before he made his directing debut, the Coens made theirs. So it's a little weird that he's remaking a debut film of filmmakers who are basically contemporaries of his. It takes place in kind of a Middle Ages medieval Chinese desert setting. So even though it's the story of Blood Simple, it's transplanted to about the 13th, 14th century, somewhere in the desert of central China. It takes place in a noodle shop. You've got a miserly owner of the noodle shop, his wife of 10 years who was basically bought, who can't stand him, who's having an affair with the cook, and then there's a couple who work at the noodle shop who are watching all of these machinations, and then into the picture comes a local police lieutenant who's enlisted by the noodle shop owner to do some dirty deeds. And things, of course, don't quite work out as it's all planned and orchestrated, and a lot of twists and turns ensue. Let's look at one of the scenes. Hilarious. Corey just said this movie should have been titled Pizza Ninja. That's funny. That's good.
Yeah, applause!
Yes.
And stop.
All right.
On my own applause sign.
Now, here's where things...
Applause!
Oh, no.
And keep going, because Wade's talking. Oh.
And done.
And scene.
And scene. Here's where this gets really interesting. The Coen brothers with Blood Simple were basically making a modern noir. They were trying to reinvent the American film noir in a very independent film setting. Zhang Yimou has taken that exact story, but this isn't a drama. This isn't even a noir. This is a comedy. And the characters have all been kind of turned into these Chinese comedy archetypes, which, if you've seen a lot of Hong Kong comedies, especially those by the director Wang, you know they can get pretty broad and pretty extreme, and even the Chinese don't necessarily like these. The guy with the buck teeth, the hairy landowner who's really kind of impotent, and the wife who's really kind of a little bit frigid, and then the young scholar who's a bit of a nerd. These are things that have shown up in hundreds and hundreds of Hong Kong films, and anyone who's seen it, they're tedious. What's even odder is that the setting of the film really borrows as much from a 1966 Taiwanese film called Dragon Gate Inn by the famed director King Hu. So what Zhang Yimou is doing here, he's taking an American film and grafting its plot onto a setting from another film and kind of making a hybrid homage to two different filmmakers, or three, counting the Coen brothers as two. It's strange to see that kind of work and kind of not work. The film has some really great moments, some very impressive filmmaking, but it never quite gels as a whole. And what I find interesting about this is that Zhang Yimou, who's someone I've followed his entire career, has gone through a number of stages in his career. And he's gone from making very intense art films to more elaborate martial arts films like Hero and House of Flying Daggers. Now he seems to sort of not know where to go with his talent, and I kind of see this film as Zhang Yimou struggling to find a new direction and new inspiration. That doesn't necessarily make it a bad film or a good film. It makes it an interesting film for people who followed his career. it makes it a passable film for people who really don't care. But either way, it's a bit of a mixed bag.
I agree, and we'll just wrap this up before we get to the winning season. And of course, Al Thompson is here. I found the film to be an experiment.
It's very much an exercise. I would call it an exercise.
It's an exercise for him. It's something he felt like he wanted to do because he loved the original film, and he was very much influenced by it, and so he decided to give it a shot. Now is the time in his career when he can do it. On that level, actually, even on that level, I thought the thing was basically a throwaway.
Yeah.
And the thing with Blood Simple is that Blood Simple had so much insight into the human condition just through this story that this film has none of that. And of course, it doesn't really want to do any of that. It's just, without that, what do you really have? Not much.
It's why I found, and nobody else has necessarily pointed this out, and I'm kind of surprised they didn't even point this out in China with the film's release, but the Dragon Gate Inn aspect to it is really fascinating to me. To me, it's almost more an homage to Dragon Gate Inn than it is to Blood Simple. You know, Dragon Gate Inn is this remote outpost, and the people who sort of coalesce around it, and the suspicion and the intrigue, and it's very much the same kind of a dynamic, this remote noodle shop of all things. You know, why would you build a noodle shop in the middle of the desert? You know, so there are these very, very peculiar questions that arise that usually in Chinese films are a function of just creating a setting so that you can have some great set pieces. And I kind of got the feeling that that's what he was doing here as well. So I'm not sure what he was going for, but it's going to be interesting to see where it leads next, because he's clearly at a turning point in his career.
I think ultimately this probably, I think whatever his next film is, I think will have nothing to do with this film.
It probably won't, but I think this film is a stepping stone to getting him there.
Could be. All right, so we have The American, which we liked.
Yep.
We have A Woman, a Gun, and a Noodle Shop, which we were extremely not that impressed with. It's whatever.
I don't,
Rent it. That's a rent. Rent. Go. Cue it up. Rent.
It's a rent. Yeah.
Oh, Rent. Next we have The Winning Season.
Rent a film that's out now. You have to wait till it shows up on DVD.
Wink, wink. Whoa! We're not that harsh. We're not that harsh. Plane, straight to plane.
Okay, oh, that's like that. Straight to plane.
Straight to plane.
I think we've got new. Okay, we'll come back. We'll take a break. We'll come back next week with it.
Straight to Dubstock. That's our new one.